Okay, quote for the day. Be bold. Envision yourself living a life that you love. By Suzanne Lori Parks. It's Minnesota. It's the weekend before Easter weekend, so the end of March here. And we have hardly had any snow all winter. So I've been in the garage because I can't do any snow activities. Well, now, was it yesterday? Thursday night, we got about 8 inches of snow here, so it's not really enough to do much with, but so I'm going to be out here in the garage working on the Mustang again some more. It's been a while since I've uploaded any videos, so I need to get my butt moving on this. This is what it's really telling me. So I did come out here last night and worked on this a little bit. I forget what I was showing last. I was going to try to get the brake, the Hydroboost mounted, so I got the other bracket on it. Then you have to run around this edge here and curl this lip up. Well, it's really hard to do with the interior in the car, so I started reading the directions and they're talking about removing the steering column, so on and so forth. So I did come out, pull the steering column out last night, and that's kind of where I'm at now. I did pull the speedo cluster out a couple nights, a night or two before that, so I got that out of here. Speedo came out first. I pulled the steering column out last night, but I figured I wouldn't show that because there's so many videos on YouTube already of pulling the steering column out, so I just kind of left it at that. So I did notice like some didn't show. So this is a little heater duct here that usually sits right up under here, but it was right under the column and I didn't feel good leaving it there. So the one thing I did notice is there's a little prong on the top here, so it made it a little bit tough to take out. So just pull this screw and you have to kind of pry around on it a little bit, and then it did pop off. But I'm gonna get this dash out of here, and I'm debating, because I'm overly particular I think, but as you can see, this thing did sit in a shed for a couple years when I wasn't driving it very much or at all for a couple years, and all the steel supports under here are really rusty and rough. So I'm actually thinking about taking those, pulling the dash out, then pulling that structure out from behind the dash and taking it and sandblasting it and painting it, just because I'm overly particular. Maybe I'm going above and beyond what I really should be, but next step is getting that dash out of here, and then I'll figure it out from there. Figure out what I really want to do here, figure out how crazy I want to get with getting this cleaned up. It is kind of going to be a street driven race car, so, and no one will ever see it except I'll know it's there. So I'll keep you posted on it, and I'll show you what I got after I have the dash out of here. Again, I've watched enough videos. There's Gearhead 704 actually has a really good video from Fox Mustang Resto, and they have a really good step-by-step on getting the dash out. So hopefully, it's about 11 o'clock right now. I'm going to see if I can have this dash out by lunchtime. I want to get it kind of stripped down enough so it's easier to get that Hydroboost mechanism and master cylinder installed in the car. Just to give you an idea, if you don't have a roll bar with low slung door bars, get yourself one. Been working on like disconnecting everything behind the dash and pulling the dash out, working the wiring through the firewall there, and this thing just sits perfectly. So it sits on the dash on that side, on that bar, and this side, and I can kind of work all the wiring, pull the dash back, work some wiring back, pull the dash back, and so on and so forth. So it's coming out pretty slick. Been working up a sweat though. This is it's a lot harder than people show on videos. So like getting all these connectors loose, working up a sweat on that stuff. Like trying to use the little plastic pry bars and stuff and try not to break too many tabs. I did have to pull a wire off of there, and I broke a tab off on one side, so hopefully I don't do any more damage yet. But it's coming out of here. So I've been spending a little bit of time out here this afternoon. Just show you the progress here. So got the dash all tore out. So I got the dash sitting up here. I cleared a spot off for it on the shelf. I went through and labeled all my wires as much as I could. On the front side, on the back side, ones that go down to the kick panels. And I had a bunch that I couldn't remember what they were really for, so I think they were for all the original stereo, since this one did have the premium sound with the little amp or whatever that was underneath the console, but that's long gone. But got everything all labeled, everything right down to the floor, pulled everything through from the firewall through. And I was thinking about this a little more. And my main objective is to get this beast running. So I was thinking about that, all the work it would take to get this bracket out from behind the dash and get all the wiring off. And I was thinking to myself, you know, that's not going to make the car run or run any better. So I think I'm going to leave this, because my whole plan is I want to get the car running and operational, and then I'm going to tear it apart again next winter and do all of the body work and that sort of stuff. So at that time, then I'll pull that out again, and I'll do the heater core and evaporator core and all that stuff, since it'll be out of the car again. So this is kind of my practice run, but I was figuring I'd need to get that out of there anyway, so that I can work on getting that brake booster mounted. And then I also have the Maximum Motorsports brake pedal and everything. So I thought, well, this will just make things easier. And according to the directions, I think it wanted you to get all the steering column and all that stuff out of the way anyway. So I thought I'd kind of use this as a kind of a practice run. Just knowing that our good old Foxbodies, they typically have these heater core issues and that sort of thing. So, and that's another thing, is I figured that heater core isn't going to make the car run any better. So I'm just going to bypass it anyway. I'm going to put the AC compressor in here, but I'm not going to be running any AC. Well, maybe I'll work on getting it plumbed, but just so I have all the lines in place. And I'm going to have to pull this out again, because the holes, like for the Speedo cable and what was I thinking about before? Anyway, I want to figure out what I really want to do to get things finished up in here and get this car together so that the dang thing runs. So not pulling that apart to get that rusty bracketry painted up and fixed up. So we're gonna go balls to the wall here and see what we can do, and hopefully have this car running in the next couple of months, like I've been waiting for an eternity. Gonna work on getting the pedal box out of here now. And I got the dash off the table over there and put up on my storage shelf here. So I got everything all labeled, got everything out of the way. Put my gauge cluster over here. Probably not gonna use that one again, but might as well keep it nice. I think this is about as far as I'm gonna tear it apart. Just so I show it. Just took bolt out there, the 2 bolts up top and 1 on the bottom, 4 bolts, and got the pedal box laying here on the floor. So next I'll be working on getting the other brake pedal in here and getting the Hydroboost set up. It's the next day, Sunday. Today's goal is see how far I can get to having like this pedal box back in the car, maybe start putting the dash back in, but the big thing is getting this Hydroboost installed. So I got the kit all laying out here, instructions, the whole works. I probably won't go through everything step by step or show what I'm doing or keep the camera on or whatever, but I'll keep popping back on here and showing you progress along the way, let you know what struggles I might be having or whatever. But just kind of show what I had done before. I thought I'd do this with the dash in the car, and you're supposed to curl this lip back. So got this nice handy dandy little tool here, so you put it on a 3/8 ratchet, whatever, and use the slip, slip it up onto the edge of the sheet metal and the firewall, and just work your way around from about 10 to 2 along there. So you can see I tried starting on that a little bit already, but obviously it didn't work very well with the pedal box still in the car, and there's all that guy was in the way before, so it's all bolted up there, and it's got all this insulation and stuff here. Ooh, this will be a lot better. Get that out of the way and go at it. I just thought I'd show this real quick. So I use that little flanging tool to bend that inside of the firewall in. So if you can see that, you really have to do a lot of bending to get that out of the way so this brake booster fits in there well, especially kind of at that top edge right there. So you can see here, I got the master cylinder just loosely set in place here. It's staying up on its own quite well, and you can see there's a nice little gap between this end of the master cylinder, or the Hydroboost portion of it. So I was using that nice little bending tool, flanging tool, and then once I got it bent this far, it was hard to bend it anymore. Like before, when I was showing, there wasn't much clearance on the top there. So I was trying to modify it, and I ground part of it off, and it still wasn't working just because the ratchet would get in the way. So I grabbed just this nice little vice grip pliers and just kind of went around the top edge of it here with the vice grip pliers, and just kind of gave it a nice little tweak to get it opened up the way it needed to be. All right, so dinking around with the pedal box again, trying to get that in. So I have the Hydroboost kind of sitting up here on top of the intake manifold, and I had my son come out here and help me try to get this all lined up in here and get it pushed in here. Push it through, and I had him just kind of holding the pedal box, putting some pressure on it here to kind of line the holes up. But then we'd get it pushed through, and there'd be just enough stud that it just be lining up with the end of the hole here, so we couldn't get a nut on it. So I'm trying to play around with it a little more, see if what I can figure out. The studs on the mounting block there are 1 inch long, and between the sheet metal, the spacer, and the sheet metal of the pedal box, it's about 0.65 inches thick. So you should have a good 1/3 of an inch, a little over 1/4 of an inch poking through yet to get that on, to get a stud on there. But kind of what I'm thinking now is, you can see that there's all this like sound deadening material kind of in the way. So I'm wondering if when you push this guy in, it's pushing this stuff and just pushing things away enough that it won't go through. So that's the current struggle right now. So I'm going to drop that back down and maybe carve some of that sound deadening material away, so there's a little bit of a gap around the hole that the master cylinder pops through. So I'm going to give that a shot now. Okay, so it took a little wrestling around, just like I figured. I had to trim a little around where the master cylinder came through the firewall, and I got all 4 nuts started on here now. Now what I'm running into is this. So that's the master cylinder popping through the firewall. So I need to figure out what I need to do. I can't quite move it enough to get it over this pin for the master cylinder. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is undo the 2 bolts on this side, so I can kind of pivot the master cylinder a little bit, just enough so that we get enough of an angle to get that over that, and then figure out how to get the... It's been so long since I took the brake pedal out that I forgot how the brake light switch mounts to this pin on the brake pedal here. So I'd show this before I go in for dinner. I got the brake pedal all mounted. Well, everything's very loose right now, nothing's tightened up, but I got everything set in there, and I did get that brake switch in there. I found a good video to watch, so I'll probably post the name of that one. I forget what YouTube channel it was, but he had a really good video just kind of step through getting that brake switch mounted. And I know this is for the cruise control, but probably not going to be using the same old cruise control. But yeah, everything's on there. The brake switch is on there. I found my hardware for this clevis. Well, I called it a clevis for this pin. There's a nice little spring clip up in there. So I found the one that I had and the little washer that goes on the outside. After watching that video, it went in there pretty slick and pretty smooth. So just kind of, and I found the little plastic bushing that goes inside too. So this brake lever is nice and tight in that in the rod from the master cylinder. So pretty happy with it now. Now it's just a matter of getting everything tightened up. Then next step is I'm gonna get my Steeda adjustable clutch cable in there. So I got the Steeda quadrant in there now. I don't know how people do that with putting a quadrant in there when this thing's up in the car. I have to give them kudos. But I'm glad I got everything apart and kind of doing it all in steps here. So next is getting that clutch cable in there and getting my electronic throttle bolted up in here too before I start putting the dash back in. Just thought I'd show a shot of this from the outside. So yep. So as you know, the stock brake booster is huge, probably come out to about here on this cylinder head. It's about 10 inches around. But there's no way in the world the conventional brake booster would have fit in there. Working on the Mustang a little bit again today. It's probably been a week since I've been out here, so not working on here as fast as I'd really like to be. But I did get adjustable clutch cable in there, so I did get that routed. So it took a few tries to kind of figure out how it fit the best. So I got it running down, and then I don't know if you can see it very well. So it's just underneath the motor mount bracket on the K-member and back to the bell housing is how I ended up kind of routing it here. But I don't have the clutch in there yet. I don't have the clutch fork or anything like that. So it's just set in there to figure out how to get that routed through there. Just thought I'd show this. Simplest and most fun install ever. The gas pedal. So I got the scram speed bracket up behind there and got the throttle pedal installed. I think other people have shown there's a big tab, a big ear that comes off of the throttle pedal up on that side. So I just took an old saw and just lopped it off. Just use those two bolts. A matter of a few minutes and this thing was installed. So it's looking good. Get this out of the way a little. But can kind of see how everything looks. I'll have to figure out what I want to do with the clutch pedal. I might do something to make it kind of match the brake pedal at some point here. But this is old and worn out for the clutch. But it got everything in there. The quadrant, the brake booster and everything's all bolted up. And gas pedal is in.